We're back. Welcome back for our second session of the day of the June Jump Off Kung Fu Martial Arts Action Cinema Mega Weekend. As promised, we are bringing you Warrior Women Who Rock, sponsored and presented by the Women's Martial Arts Network. And let me introduce you first to my moderator, Miss Lady Sensei herself. Lady Sensei.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
How are you?
I'm well, and we are so very excited and very honored to have with us today Sifu Mimi Chan, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome her.
Oh, thank you. The honor is all mine.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these very capable young ladies to talk about what they want to share with us, and I'll be back towards the end of the show. We'll be taking questions, so get them ready around 3:30ish. All right, we'll be taking questions, so get them ready, and we'll choose some of the questions to ask. And until then, have a great conversation.
Thank you so much, Brother Shihan. We'll see you later. So it is our esteemed privilege and honor to have Sister Sifu Mimi Chan.
Oh, thank you so much.
Martial Arts Network. And, you know, we want to introduce you hopefully to new audiences and have people understand just how many women in the martial arts are really carrying legacy and doing the work of the legacy of their systems and their arts. And you know, you're so interesting to me, Sister Sifu. There's so much that I read about you, but probably like the biggest thing for me is that you will be the inheritor of Walloon, and that's just like so awesome. It's not something that we hear often.
Yeah,
martial arts, no matter the continent, no matter the system, no matter the style, no matter the art. So you know, you're the inheritor and the chief instructor at Walloon Temple down in Orlando, Florida.
that's right. Sunny Orlando. So yes, so thank you for all of that and for such an extensive introduction. I hope I can live up to all of that. But it is a huge honor to be able to proliferate and carry on the tradition that my father started here, and of course from China to here in the United States, and just to kind of be able to keep that going and be able to enrich as many lives as possible. I don't do it alone by any means. I have a wonderful support system, a lot of Wallam family, Kung Fu brothers, and people that all help that collaborative effort, because it is such a big undertaking. So yes, I definitely don't do it alone, but it is overwhelming at times.
Well, you know, we definitely want to give thanks to all of those who contribute to the legacy. You know, we always have to give love to the people who work behind the scenes. Some of us in front of the audiences and in the media. People don't really understand how intricate it needs to be for us to be supported at doing what we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The dojo, the dojang, you know, we need a lot of support, and there are a lot of people with their love and dedication.
Yes, 100%. 100%. And you know better than anyone as well what a collaborative effort it takes, and it isn't just one person. Well, of course, I'm out here and I'm speaking with you. It's definitely a lot of other supporters that are helping, and even just having the students, having people who are interested in learning the traditional art form, and people who are interested in the culture and wanting to do something in this day and age where we are, you know, kind of tied to our phones and the internet, and you know, we encourage a lot more physicality and getting out there and doing more exercise and martial arts, and it's not always easy. So I am grateful to even having students to teach that want to come in and learn.
So Sister Sifu, so just so that we can balance with our audience and have them follow us easily, first I want to talk about Walloon, and then I'm going to come back to how you fit into that picture. Because your father's story, we're going to talk about your dad's story, but I want to talk about Walloon itself. It has such a distinctive history in this country. And I was wondering if you could tell people generally how your dad came here, swam here. I mean, what a phenomenal story.
Yes, yes.
Chan. Oh my
yes,
goodness.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to retell his story is because it was so fascinating and such a determination, just such a life of determination and hard work. And I just wanted to share that. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Oh my gosh, it touched my heart.
Yes.
Cry.
Oh, that is so meaningful. Thank you so much, Lady Sensei. But yeah, he basically had to escape communism. He had to do the thing where he was a seaman for a while. And when that ship finally docked, off of Newark, he jumped and to swim quite a ways to shore and, came to this country with nothing, literally just what he had in his hands and in his pockets and, made his way. And from that, we get an immigrant story. We get a story of someone preserving their culture in a new world that didn't speak the language, that had all these hardships to overcome and somehow did so. And again, not alone. It was like what we just talked about earlier with the support and love and encouragement from the community. And he was, of course, one of the first to start teaching on the East Coast, the Chinese martial arts, and opening that up to non-Asians. In the Chinatown community used to be very, very close-knit in the 60s. Late 60s especially, and for him wanting to do that, coming to this new world and realizing like, I am in America and this is what I want to do is proliferate and share and not keep it inside and want to be able to share that with others. I think that is such a beautiful thing, and I want to continue that tradition. So for him to have suffered all that hardship to get here and establish what is now a worldwide system today is really remarkable from where he started. And again, didn't do it alone. My mom was a big part of that picture.
I'm getting ready to say, oh, wait a minute.
Big part of that picture, yes.
Your mom is so gorgeous and beautiful, and she is just as awesome.
Yes, she's a Tai Chi master. Yes.
Woo!
Yeah, she's a Tai Chi master in her own right now, and also came to this country as an immigrant as well from Jamaica, and was a singer. And it's just a beautiful romantic story that he saw her singing, and that's
smitten with your mom.
But you saw her in those boots, right? So
you don't know her mother. Like you can clearly see, you be like, okay, like he probably. There was no question he was smitten with her. But your mom, I'm understanding your mom has the most beautiful Jamaican accent.
Sure enough. Yes. So in our family, we speak the patois with my family from her side. So that's a lot of fun because I get to have such a diverse culture and be able to submit, have my Chinese Jamaican heritage, which is nice as well. So it's a great blend and balance. And I'm fortunate that I was born into the family I was. So yeah.
Yes. So now going from Walloon to little Mimi Chan. So you're like 2-3 years old when Daddy starts to train you. Do you actually have memories, or do you just like wake up in the morning and go, this is all my life, I don't even know when it started, I came into the world like this? Or do you actually remember training with Daddy when you were small?
I have a lot of recollection of training when I was small, but I don't remember my first day, obviously, because I was so young. And that would have started even in Boston, where I see the pictures of me in the uniform and everything. And so I remember Orlando a lot, though. There's a lot of fond memories here because because my mom's family was here, my cousins all did Kung Fu too. And so we had that family environment at our school. And so I do have a lot of recollection of that early days training. But when I was young, I was like any other child. It wasn't that I really wanted to study Kung Fu every day. And I wanted to go play in the neighborhood like everyone else. So it took a while, but, having the exposure to it started the appreciation. And over time, it just became a part of who I am.
So what were your first strengths in training, Sensei Sifu? What do you recall? Like your forms, did you have like natural athletic ability?
think, yeah, that's a great question, actually. I think a lot of times what I remember was I was very flexible because my mom always says that as soon as I was like 1 or 2, my dad was making sure I could do the splits and I was stretching because that was his thing. He's very flexible. And so I never, as I progressed through life, I think that was a strength in terms of it was natural to me because it was what I always did. I think there were things I felt like I had to work on. I don't feel like I'm a natural athlete, but I think because I was exposed to martial arts at such a young age, I had an advantage in learning how to move and use my body, right? But I wouldn't say I'm a natural athlete because I can't really play any other sports.
No, but the thing about it is, I'm not gonna say what people don't understand, but when we have activities as children and adolescents, we develop a mapping system that makes training a bit easier than someone being introduced not having any kinetic activities.
100%.
So now I'm looking at your dad. Your dad is past 80, yes?
Yes.
Your dad's hydraulics, his knees, it's incredible. Yeah. But I'm thinking, I wonder how much of his limberness, was genetically loaded to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely don't have the answer for that just because I've been doing it for so long. But I definitely would say I lucked out in terms of my genetic disposition of, who my parents are and beyond the genes and the DNA and the genetics, just the philosophy, the tradition and the discipline and respect that was instilled in me, the principles that they gave me, the moral compass, like that all I think is far more resounding in my head of what's been important to me in life. But physically speaking, of course, the training part was still very, very difficult.
So let's just move forward a little bit.
Sure.
Dating age. Does everybody know you're Pui Chan's daughter?
Yes, everyone.
Dating, tell me about dating as a woman of the arts.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I would say a late bloomer. I didn't really date very much until probably I was almost out of high school. So
you didn't date very much when your daddy is Pui Chan.
That's right. I think that could have been a part of it. Nobody wanted to come and ask me out to movies or anything.
Absolutely. Or you could catch those hands. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move forward a little bit more to the present.
Yeah.
What is a typical day for you at Walloon?
Yeah, so a typical day for me actually starts off pretty early in the morning where I get up and just situate for my day in terms of learning what I need to do, what schools I need to contact, and then just structuring for my classes. So we have a very extensive schedule of classes. It's a full-time temple. So we have a lot of, like I said, help. We have a lot of volunteer help and we have some full-time help as well. And so just kind of making sure that the logistics of everything is in operation.
Administrative as well as teaching as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I pretty much run the entire business at this point in time. And I also run the entire system. So we have meetings with the instructors from all over the world as well. So it just kind of depends on what's on the slate for that day. So from a business perspective, I'm certainly consider myself to be a small business owner as well as somebody who's running an international organization. And then the second half of the day from like 3 or 4 on, I'm pretty much in classes and I'm very hands-on with the teaching at the school.
Yeah. We were talking about your athleticism. People should also know that Sister Sifu Mimi Chan is a retired, undefeated grand champion. That's pretty awesome.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's interesting. We talk about tournaments and things like that. It feels like forever ago, a lifetime ago, because of course, as you progress in life, you end up giving to your students and hoping that all of that gets passed on and they're able to then kind of take the helm. But as a competitor, things were very different back when I competed. There weren't always women divisions. So in terms of forms, especially like for sparring, yes, but like in forms and things like that, very very often I was in a co-ed environment. So a lot of times at that time, there just wasn't enough women to compete. So I was often with the men. And I think that kind of also helped me always seeing past just what gender assignment or gender expectation is. It was just, this is how it was for me, you know, as I progressed as a competitor. So it was a different environment back then for sure.
So Mimi, when you're competing, when you were competing, were you expressing yourself because, you know, some people think this is, people sometimes separate people from their culture, and Walloon is your voice. It's one of your voices.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were competing, were you competing as Mimi Chan, or were you competing as an Asian woman within her culture?
That's a great question, Lady Sensei. And I think one I've never been asked before. So thank you for that.
See, for some of us, it would be what we're doing.
Yeah.
For you, it might be who I am.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So which scenario do you find any vibration in?
Yeah, I would have to say that it's a little bit of both. I mean, it sounds like a throwaway answer, but the thing is, as I've grown into the person I am today, I really started to embrace my Asian culture as I aged, right? I grew up in Orlando, Florida, which was not very diverse at the time. I was always feeling that minority. You know, I always felt like I was the minority and kind of at that time wanted to fit in. Whereas as I progressed through life as an older teen and things like that, I realized how much I enjoyed the fact that I had differences in my culture. Like I really started to embrace that. And so as I competed, I think as an older competitor in my teens, I definitely think that I was embracing my identity of being an Asian woman. And also, of course, I was always representing my father. And so there was a little bit of pressure of the expectation because I was Pui Chan's daughter, you know, as Grandmaster Pui Chan's daughter, there was an expectation of how good I should be. But I think that coming into my own as I was older, identifying as an Asian woman was something that didn't happen until I was a little bit more mature. Because when I was younger, very susceptible to just wanting to fit in and trying to see how I wouldn't feel so singled out. Whereas when I was older, I was completely about, you know, embracing who I am and putting that out there.
So did you feel like ordinary teen pressure? Were you like a fashion plate, you know, and it didn't have anything to do, you know, with your heritage? Or you know, were you someone, Mimi just like did her own thing? She had her own individual thing, or were you like a conservative?
I would say as a teen, I was already really into being a Wallum Kung Fu practitioner. I was very much embracing who I am at that point. I would wear my Kung Fu jacket to school all the time. So everybody knew who I was. That's actually how I met my husband, because he really loved martial arts and Kung Fu movies. And he's like, oh, you do Kung Fu? Because I completely owned that at the time. But when I was like a little girl, that's when I would be a bit more shy about it. But as a teen, by then, because I had already been, you know, for almost, you know, 15 plus years, it's been who I am. I embraced it at that point. And so I was always very proud of my martial art heritage and my Kung Fu training and always wanted to represent.
So I want to go from you talking about your Asian heritage to the present climate in the country. You know, Brother Warrington Hudlin and Brother Carlin, Brother Carlin, forgive me, your name is getting past me. A little bit of pressure right now. We had a martial artist rally.
Yes.
You know, against the Asian hate here in New York, and Perry Young and
yes,
and a lot of great people were there to support the rally. And I'm wondering, can you tell us, you know, what your impressions are of what's happening in the country right now, and a little bit of what might be going on in Orlando?
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And thank you for bringing light to it. And of course, thanks to everybody that attended that over in New York. I saw the event and actually I'm friends with Perry. And so it was, and of course, Warrington. So it was really great to see that support for our community, because it is such a challenging and difficult time.
Our one of our executive committee members, Sister Chung Sinem Betty Z, was one of the speakers as well.
Yes, yeah, and I mean, it was so wonderful to see that, and as you know, as a member of the BIPOC community, communities where we have oppression historically, right? It's just awesome to see when everybody comes together and everybody is able to rally around the fact that this is wrong. And so it's been a frustrating year for sure, and in so many communities. But of course, seeing our elderly being attacked on the streets is absolutely unacceptable, and the fact that president at the time was kind of condoning those actions, I took personally, using my culture, calling things like kung flu, like that was an issue for me, because that's taking something very sacred to me, and being disrespectful. Yeah. And so of course I've been an advocate, I've been an activist, I've been speaking out. I was very busy this year, especially through AAPI Heritage Month, but also when the shootings in Atlanta happened, I found myself having to speak out about it every day. I was on the news and I was talking about that this is an issue, but it's not just been this year. This historically, there is racism, not just for my community, but specifically speaking about the Asian community, because that's what I know about, right? Like it's not new, right? And
people need to speak out, because we're all just one hashtag away from the same violence.
Yes, absolutely.
Each one of us. So don't think you're immune.
Yeah.
Because the country is very sick right now.
Yes. So there's a lot of issues. And so, we've been speaking out against it. And, we've been lucky in Orlando. We don't have like a Chinatown in the way San Francisco and New York. So there's not that community where you see a lot of people walking. We don't have a public transportation system here. So everybody's in their cars. So I think that has lessened the attacks like in our area. But for sure, I've got my ear to the ground with the community. And, people have been coming to me and saying they're kind of afraid. They don't want their parents going grocery shopping. There's been fear, and that's so unfortunate. Well, we have to live our lives differently, right? And so I have taken action to, bring the community together. I've hosted some webinars on bystander intervention training, and how to protect yourselves against harassers. And I just encourage people to constantly get educated and get more information, but also to stand up for one another and be vocal and make people know that this is not okay.
Is the media supportive? Is the media?
The media was supportive after all of the national things happened, right? And so we didn't get a lot of coverage until, a lot of these actors and a lot of the, social justice advocates finally got the messaging through that this was happening, right? And so locally here in Orlando, I have to say I feel supported by our mayor and by even law enforcement and by the media here. But it's still always a struggle, because whatever the next story is always what gets played into, right? So you just never know what that is, and it's important that this issue does stay have attention, because it's ongoing and it hasn't ended.
Yes. Walloon is celebrating, has celebrated its 50th anniversary. Is there another temple in America older than Walloon?
Well, to my knowledge, the Walloon Temple is the first Kung Fu temple in America. So my father, there's other martial arts styles, of course, that have started. There's other Chinese martial art masters that may have started, I think, on the West Coast, but to actually build a Kung Fu temple in, honor of where he trained in China and to honor his master and everything. I mean, we have an actual temple, and we're very, very proud of that. As I know you saw the movie, the Pui Chan Kung Fu Pioneer, and like it is a really huge, like momentous occasion for us. The fact that, he built that temple 40 years ago, but 50 years ago,
he's not renting out a storefront. Like literally.
It's a Kung Fu temple. Yes.
No, I mean, literally it was built.
Yes.
Literally from the ground up.
From the ground up. Yes. From the ground up. So we're very proud of that. And it was a huge milestone year last year for us. And of course, with the pandemic, we weren't able to really have the celebrations we would normally have had, as getting all together, having a big performance. So we did a virtual performance, that's on our YouTube channel. And, I produced kind of a live show that filmed so that people could still enjoy our culture and our style and celebrate that with us. So it was a bit unfortunate, but we're still really proud of the fact that we have been in existence for so long.
So because we're talking about the long history of Walloon Temple. I'm understanding this great film for those of you who have not seen it. Sister Sifu Mimi has made a film, did a documentary on this temple and her mother and father's journey to put this temple together, and it has won awards. It's won more than 10 awards at festivals and film competitions all over. I mean, it's so tastefully done, and I can't imagine how long Sister Seafood must have taken you to put it together. It must have taken years.
Yes, it certainly did. It certainly did. It was something that I've always wanted to do, and so I've been collecting archive footage and scanning pictures for years and years and years. And when I finally sat down to do it and do the production of it, it was a year-long process. But before that, I was certainly gathering and getting things together for quite a while.
You knew a long time ago that you wanted to do that.
I mean, before I actually did the project, I would say for at least 10 years, I had been saying it's something I wanted to do, and it was really a matter of like sitting down and finally doing it. It's kind of, I think I would analogize for people who maybe are authors. I'm going to write that book. I'm going to do it. And just sitting down to put the pen to the paper.
Collecting, and you keep collecting.
Yes.
I understand. Yes.
Yeah, so it was definitely a labor of love. I probably should have gotten more help with it than I did, because I really just wanted it to be exactly my interpretation. And so I took on a lot, but
there is no Hollywood backlot or anyone who could have done a better job than you did on that film. I'm telling you, when I saw it, you made me start dreaming.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a real stickler for people being able to tell their own stories. You understand? Because when we don't archive our history, then other people begin to construct and reconstruct a history that's not necessarily the truth.
Yes.
And so what I really love, that not after mommy or daddy traveled on to the ancestors, but while your parents are here, and they can say, well done, daughter, and we love it, and you could still consult with them. My gay lay is off. So awesome.
Thank you.
So it's garnered all of these awards, so on and so forth, and now you want to publish it, to make it available to the public. And you went to Amazon, and that went well until what is happening recently.
Yeah, it's a much longer, crazier story to get to that point, but I will save you the boring part of that, because it's a lot of indie filmmaker strife. But basically, I ended up having to go direct to Amazon myself after dealing with distributors and whatnot, and that not going well. So Amazon Prime seemed really excited to have it on board. I did all the digital stuff, and it was doing well. And, up until April, there was like, I don't know how many minutes, 20,000 minutes shown of the film or something. So people are watching the film because they're the ones that told me, hey, in May, for some reason, I can't get your film access like I did before. So I see it there. You can rent it or own it. But before, I was an Amazon Prime member. It was part of their streaming program. It was part of their platform. I don't see that anymore. And I thought that was really strange, because it's literally Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And that's when Amazon decided to axe the film. And so that was a lot of frustration, because when I went to go and look at what films they had in their Asian American collection, it wasn't Asian American. It was just random, Asian shows, which I think is great, that we need to see a lot of diversity, but there weren't any Asian American, there weren't very many of Asian American stories, also directed by an Asian American female. I don't even know if there were how many, less than on one hand for sure, but it's frustrating because I'm a very small, I am Wallum Films. It's my own little film production, right? I'm not Marvel or these big studios. Not yet. And so I'm not getting my film pushed out there. So Amazon doesn't recommend it. And so therefore the algorithm or the robot that's saying, hey, this film doesn't have enough views, it just basically removed that. And it was just a frustrating time because we're already having so much frustration right now, as you mentioned, the political climate and the climate for
this is a story that people need to see.
Yeah, it's inspiring.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think education is a huge way in which we need to help others understand that Asians are Americans and we are a part of this community. And here's a great example and a great story of how the immigrants have come in and been a benefit to society, right? So this is exactly the type of story, like you said, I think needs to be shared at this moment in time. And so just having one less ease of access to it, you know, like everything else, it just makes it harder and harder and harder. And in this day and age, if things aren't convenient for people, they're not going to do it. It needs to be in your face. It needs to be accessible. And I'm worried now that maybe they don't even want to have it on the platform at all. So I definitely encourage people to rent it or watch it if they're interested, because it's part of I think part of our heritage, part of my story, but my father's story, but also on a bigger picture,
But stories are the way we humanize each other. Stories are the way that we convey our commonalities.
Yeah, empathy.
You understand what I'm saying?
Of course.
And so this film, for those of you who would love to learn about Mimi's family and her culture, this, you know, I can't even imagine how long, you know, all of the film that I saw, the photos and everything that you probably had to like amass to tell this story in a really easy to understand family sort of way. You know, to see what it takes to feel like, you know, you have to start your life all over again. And particularly in this pandemic, I think a lot of people are having to start their lives over.
Absolutely.
For a myriad of reasons.
Absolutely.
You see, and your dad, I'm sure watched you as you were going along, and you probably consulted with dad. But can you recall like the first that daddy is sitting there, mom and dad are sitting there, and they look at this thing and they turn to you and say, "My child," what?
Well, I will say they were very happy. But what's funny about that is that anybody that knows my parents knows that they're very they're very like, getting him to even sit still for the interview was such a process, because my dad is like 100 miles an hour. He does not want to sit still. And so it was, and so every, yeah. And so
you can see that.
Yes. And so even trying to get the film done was like, how come you're not finished yet? When is the film going to be finished? You know, there was a little bit of impatience there. And so
that's what you have to do is make a movie.
Right. And so we finally get to do it. You know, of course, there was just joy and wow, they didn't expect that, because they've seen a lot of my like home movies before where I put little things together, and I had like a different version where it was just for our viewing, just to have archival. And then I was like, no, I want to do this like for the public. Then I'm going to do it the way I know I need it to be done, which is on a professional scale. And so I don't think they realized how professional it was going to look. And that is the comment I get all the time, which I know is a nice comment, but it's also slightly insulting. Like, oh, wow, I didn't think it was going to be so professional. Like, I think people think it's going to be like a home movie. And
Mimi, it was nice. And
thank you. Thank you for that.
What we really want from our audience and subsequent audiences, even after this continues to be replayed, we need for you to get a hold of that film, because the more people watch it, the more it will send a positive signal. But also, we need to let Amazon know that we want these stories.
Absolutely.
And that artificial intelligence, you know, can't continue, you know, to tell human stories because you're artificial.
Yes.
To begin with. And speaking of film, a lot of people may not realize that, well, just tell us, how did you become the
model.
The model for Mulan.
Yes, yes. Well, a long time ago, back when the original animated feature Mulan was being made, it was actually being made here in Orlando, Florida. And our school has, it was here. We had an animation studio here at the time, MGM Studios. And our school has a very close relationship with Disney. And so we do a lot of shows. We did the grand opening for Epcot's China Pavilion 82. My mom was actually on the commercial for it. So we work with them a lot. Yeah. Yeah, you'd love it. Yeah. So we have a lot of back and forth. And so when they were making the film, they were just starting out in the early stages. We actually went there to give the animation team a Tai Chi seminar because they wanted the animators to really get the feeling of what the Chinese culture was like and wanted some exposure. And when I was there, one of the producers and people in casting looked at me and said, Mark Hen, who is the lead animator for Mulan and did it like Ariel and Belle and all the other Disney princesses, he's looking for the face of Mulan. He's been searching. And I went to meet him that day. And in an interview later, he kind of just wrote it. It was kind of like Mulan walked into the room. And so from there, that's how it worked out. And I would go and work with the animation team. And at that time was live action. So any of the live action we did was all done through video reference. There was no motion capture at the time. So now they do motion capture where they put all the things on you and you move and it's on the computer. At that time, literally we filmed it like all the action sequences. My cousin George Key and I did the choreography and all the fight sequences. So we would have to film it like a movie, and they would then watch that video over and over to reference. So that was like one of the last old school ways of animation for things like that. So it was a really amazing experience. Yeah.
But you just really don't look old enough to have done all of these things, quite frankly.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm definitely old.
Obviously keeps you very young. I think I'm going to go get a bucket of Tai Chi. Is what I'm thinking.
Oh my goodness.
So that is not all of the work that you've done in front of the camera also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I've been fortunate. After the Mulan experience, I really enjoyed the creative process. And so I did go to Hollywood for a little bit and did some acting and stunt performing out there. It was just hard for me to leave something like my temple here in Orlando and exist in a place like Los Angeles. It didn't coincide with my spirit, right? It wasn't who I was, but I so missed it. I really love doing live action. I love doing film. And that's kind of what led me to eventually start directing my film and doing creative outlet through things with my school, like live performances and directing and choreographing there. But I absolutely, it's hard to be in too many places at once. I had to kind of pick my path. And of course, while I'm one, if you look at it that way, but I would love to do more projects. It's just a matter of balancing that out. But yes,
you leaving Walam Temple is like me cutting off my locks and putting a wig on or something like that. Like, that's not who I am.
It was hard. Yeah, it was a tough thing, but yeah. But I did get to work with some amazing people. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah.
Stunt performer work is not easy.
It is not easy.
Very glamorous.
It is not easy at all. I do value the experience that I gained from it, and of course the people that I met and got to work with. It was incredible. So I value that, and I loved it at the time. But yeah, it was hard to be able to balance both, especially because at the time you really had to go and live out in LA if you wanted to do that, and it didn't work out that way for me.
So when you went to Hollywood, were there other young women like you, or
there were a lot of amazing stunt performer women that were out there. A lot of wushu artists, I think, found their way into doing stunt work and stunt performing. And there's some amazing creatives and artistic talents out there. So I don't know if there were other women in terms of the Walam system hanging on their shoulders kind of thing. Like I think that is very unique to me in my world. But in terms of stunt performing, there are far better stunt performers than me for sure.
Yes. So your palette has a lot of color to it. Done a lot. You've done the competitive. You've done the historical archives. You do the day-to-day, you do the administrative. How does mommy feel?
Well, my mom is very proud, of course, of the work I'm doing, and that they're still very involved at the school. Both my parents, they're there every day. My dad's there every morning, and my mom goes in and teaches her Tai Chi classes. So they're still very involved. But I think they like the fact that they can rest assured knowing that everything's kind of being taken care of. And I am a very organized person. I would say my organization's better than my martial arts even. So I'm super organized, and that is where I really thrive. And so knowing that everything's kind of in its place and that things are going to be good, I think that makes them feel very much that they can sleep well at night kind of thing. So I know that they are very proud of.
You're just a woman of 1,000 hats. Do you have any aspirations for acting or fight choreography in the future? Will you come back and perhaps teach a class, a how-to class? You've got a lot of information, and
I'm certainly open to it. I always say life brings you opportunity. So if someone knocked on the door today with an opportunity, I don't shut the door, so I would never say never on anything. I honestly would love to do more film projects and things like that. It's just a matter of time and place, just like Mulan. I walked into that worked out, and I'm not actively, going on auditions all the time, but I am I'm a SAG member and things like that. So the door is still open.
So Gery Williams is asking, do you think representations of traditional martial arts on film and television will make a comeback fight scene wise?
Okay, thanks for the question, Gery. I think that when you say traditional martial arts on film and television, that's a really tough one, because what traditional martial arts is and what we see on TV is usually vastly different. Like, you'll get essences of it. And I think that will always still be there, because people like to kind of see that there's like that essence of that traditional nature. But it's really hard, because for film and TV, it doesn't always translate into what maybe the lens sees as exciting. And so even as a stunt performer, I wouldn't say, oh, I'm doing traditional Kung Fu on camera. You're integrating so many different things and whatever the script calls for, really. And so you're at the mercy of the directors, you're at the mercy of the script, and then higher up studio, et cetera. So if I were doing my own film, maybe I would love to do something that's like kind of really rooted in something traditional and but yet creative at the same time, to show that things can be both.
Okay. Brother Shihan is asking, what do you think of the new Kung Fu on the CW?
I have to admit, I haven't seen it yet. I don't get to watch a ton of TV. It's so embarrassing. I knew this question would come up, but I was happy to see that an Asian female lead was in the role. Right. That was a really cool choice, I thought, and a really smart one. And I liked, I only saw the trailers, so I did like to see that there was a lot of diversity, because of course, representation is super important, especially right now that there's positive representation, like shows like Warrior and things like that. Like we love to see that. And we love to see that Asians aren't just also typecast into roles that only have to do with Kung Fu or only have to do with specific things. Like, we want to see more representation out there.
I want to pitch like 2 cents into that dollar, Sister Sifu. What I really love about the cast of Warrior, they are woke. They are active. They are aware of their heritage and what it is they're carrying. And it's just such a refreshing opportunity to have met some of those individuals, and they're woke.
Yes. Wonderful cast and production. Yeah, I'm so glad that that we fought for it, everybody on social media, and they're getting renewed a season. So that's what it's about.
So I want to ask you about the Mimi Chan show.
Okay. Yes.
Tell us about the Mimi Chan show, because people, even after this time, to tune in and catch you. Tell us about the Mimi Chan show.
Well, thank you so much for that. Yeah. So my podcast, which sometimes there's video podcast, but mostly it's an audio podcast, is just really born out of my desire to promote empathy. And so I want to share, just like you're doing right now with me. So thank you for that. Share people's stories and share as much as I can about different cultures and about different situations, about fitness, everything from fitness and comics to martial arts to immigrant stories to LGBTQ to, I just want to share, right? And so I feel like if we all understand one another and know that these are humans behind these stories and there's a connectivity, that we can then promote empathy. You know, I started this in 2016 when there was a lot of political strife. There was a lot of issues. There was a lot more like churning of, racial tensions and things like that, and which we've seen the manifestation of it from last year to now. And so I figured like having that platform to be able to share that and promote that would be something positive, and also something positive for me where I get to talk to really incredible people that share their stories with me and hopefully educate the public. So it's a passion project. One of the other things that I do. So yeah, the Sifu Mimi Chan show is on podcast networks. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can tune into them and, pick and choose whichever one resonates to you.
How often are you doing your broadcasts?
There is a weekly episode for the last 4 years. So there's a new episode every week. Over the pandemic, there was actually almost twice a week, because it was a friend of mine, an author, comic book creator, Greg Rucka, and we were doing an extra. So I was doing almost 2 a week at that time. But typically it's once a week. Yeah.
Okay. So we have brother Shihan Demetrius rejoining us. How are you, sir?
I'm well. I just want to thank you guys for everything today. It was very informative. We're very, very excited. I do have one question about the podcast. Are you videotaping it, or is it just audio?
So we do both, but they're not all videoed, because some guests don't want to be on video. So I do have a YouTube channel under, everything's under the umbrella of Wallum Films. So you could see my Sifu Mimi Chan playlist, or there's like Kung Fu Pod, there's different things, Kung Fu advice, things like that. So there is a video aspect of it. Lately, it's mostly Zoom calls, right? So that's the thing with the podcast. Sometimes I do in-person interviews as well. So it just depends. But mostly each week, those are all going to be audio.
Okay. And finally, how can we follow and support you on social or any other platform?
Yes. All of my social is at Sifu Mimi Chan, SIFU MIMICHAN. So Sifu Mimi Chan. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And give us the name again of the film, please,
Yes.
because I want people to go to Amazon.
Yes.
And check out this film.
Yes, Pui Chan Kung Fu Pioneer, and that's PUI. Pui Chan Kung Fu Pioneer, and that is on Amazon.
And do you have any other projects right now that you want to direct us to? Or?
No, I think if you're following me on the social media at Sifu Mimi Chan, you can kind of keep up with everything I'm doing. I am doing a petition here in Florida to include Asian American history into our education curriculum. So I have been working with local House of Representatives to write a bill for that. This is my first time doing that. And so if anybody wants to help sign that petition, it's at change.org/Asian American history. And if Florida can get it done, hopefully it can pave the way for other states as well. So, and then hopefully it's the groundwork for other cultures as well to get their history included. So that's what I'm kind of hoping with that. And really just thank you so much to both of you, Lady Sensei and Demetrius. Thank you so much for having me on this program. It's a great honor and wonderful to meet you and just be a part of this. So I really appreciate the conversation.
So perhaps Sister Sifu, when we establish our new normal, you'll get a chance to come here and be with us.
I would love that. I would absolutely love it.
And be on the platform with us. It's a wonderful platform. It has a very strong platform for women, stunt performers, actresses, filmmakers, writers, comics, you name it, all of it. So we hope you can come and be with us here in New York sometime.
It would be my honor.
So much. Please give your best to your dad and your mom. I know your mom's a great dancer, but we'll save that for another conversation. And thank you so much, Shihan Demetrius, for providing this opportunity for the Women's Network to help show the beauty and the contributions and the accomplishments of women in the arts. Thank you.
Absolutely. We're going to put those links in the description. Okay, we're going to put our social media as well as the Amazon link. We're going to put that in the description too. So that way, as the video continues to travel on, those links will be there. But we've got coming up 4:30. We got JFH, Heroes United. Learn how to be a part of the cinematic universe worldwide and on an app. They're going to demonstrate at 4:30. And then at 7 p.m. tonight, the WMAC Masters are back. So we're going to have them talk about solidarity in the martial arts, because the martial arts, as you know, has always promoted solidarity.
Absolutely.
Because the foundation of the martial arts are character, right?
Absolutely.
Not anything superficial. It's about honor. It's about respect. It's about discipline. The things that build character. And when you're working that hard, you don't have time for any type of prejudice and any of these things, because you know that character building is something that weeds all that out. You know what I'm saying? That's why in Enter the Dragon, he talks about being forged with the fire of your will.
Woo.
You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that fire is always going to burn out all those things that are not
burns out the
rooted. You know what I'm saying? In a true foundation. So thank you, Lady Sensei. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother
Thank
Chisom.
you. Thank you so much.
We will see you guys shortly. Until then, be safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.